I was barely 2 steps into the venue when Mom locked eyes with me across the lobby, like I'd just tracked dirt in on the carpet. Her face dropped. Not a second of hesitation. "You couldn't at least wear a tie?" she said, loud enough for the couple behind me to hear. I smoothed the front of my charcoal suit. Nothing flashy, but tailored, clean. "Nice to see you too, Mom." She gave me that tight-lipped smile she saves for people she pities. "Kyle's big day. You might have made a little more effort." Her eyes scanned me like I was some stray animal she'd found at the wrong table. "Still doing those little tech gigs, I guess?" I bit down on my cheek. Same line, different year. Something like that. She didn't ask further. She never did. I'd let them believe I was scraping by as a freelance IT contractor, bouncing between gigs and ramen dinners. Seemed easier than explaining I owned a cybersecurity firm that grossed more last quarter than their entire family-run business had in a year. Kyle was their golden boy. Younger by 3 years, working at the family's logistics company Dad helped him into right after college. I'd built my life from scratch, but he was the one they called driven. I started toward the reception hall, trying to stay invisible. No one greeted me. No one even looked twice. That was fine. That was the plan. Quick note, before we get into it, share which city or country you're watching from. Brooke, Kyle's brand new wife, spotted me first. She was standing with a group of bridesmaids near the champagne tower. Her lips curled when she saw me. "Well, look who made it out of his cave," she said, loud enough for laughs. Kyle walked up behind her, all grins and cologne, clapping me hard on the back. "I told Brooke you'd show. You never miss a free meal." I forced a smile. "Congratulations." He grinned. "Thanks, big day. The CEO of our parent company's stopping by tonight. Big deal for us. I've been working that angle for months. Promotion might finally be coming." I nodded like I didn't already know exactly who he meant. They didn't know that same CEO had been trying to get a meeting with me for weeks. Meetings I'd been pushing off because of this wedding. But I let it slide. No reason to blow it up now. Not yet. Brooke leaned in with a smirk. "Maybe Kyle can get you a job after this merger goes through." I didn't blink. Maybe. And then I walked past them, straight into the reception, quiet, unimportant, and underestimated. Exactly where I needed to be. I barely made it through my first drink before I spotted him. Harrison Blackwell, CEO of Crestal Enterprises, walking through the main entrance like he owned the building, which, knowing him, he probably did. Navy suit, no tie, polished cufflinks. A guy who didn't need to say a word to pull every set of eyes in the room. Kyle lit up like a Christmas tree. He nudged Brooke and straightened his jacket like he was about to meet a damn president. There he is. Showtime. I watched from near the bar, sipping something cheap. Harrison scanned the crowd once, didn't even pause near Kyle, and walked straight through the noise like he had tunnel vision, right toward me. "Mr. Sutton," he said, shaking my hand like we were closing a deal. "You're a hard man to pin down." Kyle's voice behind him cracked through the room. "Wait, what?" I smiled. "Been a busy few weeks, Harrison." "Don't I know it," he said, still hoping to get that meeting on the books. My team's eager to move forward on the merger. The words dropped like a grenade. A full hush fell over the nearest tables. Even the DJ paused the music. I didn't turn around. I could feel it. Kyle frozen mid-step, Mom a few feet back gripping her wine glass too tight. Brooke blinking like someone had just slapped her. Harrison glanced over his shoulder. "Ah, I didn't realize your family was here." "They are," I said, finally looking past him. Kyle looked like his jaw might unhinge. "Wait, what merger? You two? What are you talking about?" Harrison turned, giving that effortless CEO grin. "We've been in talks with Sutton Strategies for months now. Didn't he tell you?" Brooke narrowed her eyes. "Sutton? Wait, as in his last name?" Harrison raised a brow. "You mean you didn't know? Your brother-in-law is the Sutton, founder, majority owner. Sutton Strategies is spearheading the entire cybersecurity overhaul for Crestal's restructuring." Mom's wine glass slipped right out of her hand and shattered on the floor. She didn't even flinch. Dad stood behind her, pale as drywall. Kyle's voice was barely a whisper. "You're lying." Harrison looked between us, clearly catching on. "He never told you?" I finally stepped forward. "Didn't come up. They think I fix routers for old ladies." There was a beat of total silence. Even the servers froze. Kyle laughed once, but it didn't sound right. "This is a joke. You don't... There's no way." You run that firm? Built it from scratch, I said. 10 years ago. Brooke shook her head. But you, at Christmas, you said you were freelancing. I was being polite. Harrison clapped me on the shoulder. Well, I for one am relieved you're here. We need to move fast if this merger's going to close before year's end. I looked right at Kyle. Yeah, real fast. Kyle stepped forward, eyes darting like he couldn't process it. You're the one leading the merger with Crestel? I nodded. Yep. Been in negotiations for months. But don't worry, you'll still get your promotion. He straightened a little. If you earn it. Brooke's mouth opened like she had something to say, then closed again. She looked around the room, realizing everyone had stopped pretending not to listen. Mom finally found her voice. Why wouldn't you tell us this? Why hide it? I shrugged. You never asked, just assumed I was a failure and moved on. Dad stepped forward like he wanted to shake my hand, but thought better of it. So, what happens next? Harrison checked his watch. Well, next week we finalize the merger terms. Once Sutton Strategies is on board, we'll have new leadership plans in place by the end of the quarter. Brooke looked at Kyle, then back at me, her voice low. We were joking earlier. We didn't know. Yeah, I said. You were real funny. Kyle's face turned red. You waited for this. You planned this whole thing. I stepped in close. No, I just showed up to your wedding. You did the rest. I didn't give them time to recover. We need to talk, I said, cutting through the whispering and stares. Kyle started to argue, but I was already walking toward a side door off the ballroom. Now, Mom, Dad, Kyle, and Brooke trailed behind me like kids called to the principal's office. I pushed open a small conference room door, shut it behind us, and leaned against the table. The noise from the reception dulled to a low hum through the walls. Kyle spun around first. You're unbelievable. You ruined my wedding. I crossed my arms. No, you did that yourself. You waited for this moment. You wanted to embarrass me. I stepped closer. You've been handed everything your whole life, Kyle. Jobs, connections, Mom and Dad's backing. I built my company alone while you were playing manager at Dad's firm. Brooke touched his arm. Kyle, maybe. He shook her off. No, he came here to humiliate me. Mom's voice cracked, soft and practiced. We were just worried about you. You always seemed so lost. I snapped my eyes to her. No, you dismissed me. That's not worry. That's writing me off. She opened her mouth, then closed it. Dad cleared his throat and stepped in, his tone suddenly careful. Let's not fight. We can work something out. Maybe there's a way for all of us to benefit here. I barked a laugh. There it is, the negotiation. I'm serious, he said. If this merger goes through, we'll need someone to bridge the gap between the two companies. Kyle knows the internal operations. We can help each other. I held his stare. You mean like how I helped pay for Kyle's MBA? Kyle blinked. What? I turned back to him. They borrowed from me, Kyle, for your tuition, and never paid it back, all while telling me to keep my head down and be grateful for temp work. Mom's face went white. We always planned to... Don't. My voice cut her off. You never planned anything except making sure he got ahead. Kyle shifted, his bravado cracking. I didn't know. I'm sure you didn't, I said. You were too busy being the golden boy. Brooke whispered, Kyle. Dad raised his hands like he was soothing a wild animal. This doesn't have to get ugly. You're in a position to make real change here. Why not lift everyone up? I leaned in, low and sharp. Because no one lifted me up. The room went dead silent. I straightened and looked at Kyle. Kyle's hands balled into fists, but he didn't move. Mom reached for him and missed. Dad just stared at me like he'd never seen me before. I opened the door and gestured out. We're done here. Go enjoy the reception. They filed past me one by one, silent. Kyle last, his eyes dark and uncertain, and I let the door close behind him. By the time the elevator doors closed behind them, I knew what was coming. Next morning, my phone blew up. Missed calls, voicemails, texts stacked on top of each other. Kyle first, then Mom, then Dad. Even Brooke tried. Please call us. We need to talk. You didn't have to do that. This is your family. I didn't answer a single one. Not out of spite, I just didn't care anymore. I was busy finalizing a merger that was going to change the entire structure of their company. First week, Kyle showed up at my office, Got stopped by security before he made it to the elevators. The second time, he brought coffee like we were buddies. I had them send it back down unopened. Third time, I let him up. He looked like hell. Wrinkled shirt, bloodshot eyes, hair all over the place. Not the cocky version from the wedding. This one looked like a man watching the ground disappear under his feet. 5 minutes, I said. He sat across from me, hands clenched in his lap. I'm not here to fight, he said. I need to know what's going to happen to me. I stared at him. Depends on you? He leaned forward. Look, I know I was an ass. I shouldn't have said what I said. I shouldn't have treated you like that. I didn't know. You didn't care to know, I cut in. You never asked. None of you did? He dropped his gaze. I was wrong. I nodded slowly. Yeah, you were. He blinked. I stood up, walked to the window behind me, and looked out over the city. Here's what's coming. Leadership restructure, performance audits, department reviews. No one gets a free pass. You want to stay? You prove your worth like everyone else. Your name doesn't buy you anything now. He didn't respond. I turned back to him. You want a future? Earn it. His voice cracked. I'm trying. I stared at him for a long second. It's not enough to try. You've got to deliver. He nodded, slow and stiff. Okay. Good, I said. We'll see. He stood to leave, but paused at the door. I meant what I said. I was wrong. I didn't respond, and he walked out, one hand still trembling, the other holding the door like it weighed 100 pounds. The door flew open like it had been kicked. Mom stormed in first, Dad right behind her. My assistant tried to stop them, but Mom waved her off like she owned the building. We need to talk, she said, eyes sharp, voice tighter than I'd heard in years. I checked my watch. I've got 15 minutes before the board meeting. Make it quick. Dad stepped forward, hands up like this was some peace mission. This isn't how families treat each other. You've made your point, but it's time to do the right thing. I leaned back in my chair. Define right. Mom clasped her hands together. Don't dismantle everything your father built. Don't ruin your brother's future over... What? A grudge? I raised an eyebrow. Grudge? You think this is about hurt feelings? Dad cut in. You're angry, I get it. We didn't always understand what you were doing, but now that we do, let's work together, as a family. I opened my desk drawer, pulled out a photo frame, and slid it across the table. It was a picture from a beach trip when I was 12. Kyle's in the center, held up on Dad's shoulders. Mom's kissing him on the cheek. I'm at the edge of the frame, half cut out, holding a towel, no one even looking at me. I tapped the glass. That's what family looked like, for years. Mom stared at the photo, lips pressed tight. Dad said nothing. You told me I wasn't leadership material. You laughed when I said I'd start my own firm. You funded Kyle's first business pitch, but told me to get a real job. Dad shifted in his seat. We were trying to protect you. No, I snapped. You were protecting your version of me, the one that stayed quiet and knew his place. They both went still. I stood and walked around the desk. I'm not tearing anything down. I'm building something better. And if that makes you uncomfortable, that's your problem. Mom's voice dropped to a softer tone. We just want to be part of your life again. I crossed my arms. On my terms. Dad looked up. And what does that mean? It means no more pretending you were in my corner. No more last-minute favors for Kyle. No more phone calls only when you need something. If you want in, you show up. Not for control, not for handouts, but to listen. There was a knock at the door. My assistant poked her head in. Boardroom's ready. I held the door open for them. Meeting starts in 5. If you want to watch, there's a glass wall outside, just like always. Close, but never quite inside. They walked out slower than they came in, and I followed, leaving the old photo face down on the desk. The boardroom smelled like polished wood and control, quiet, heavy, tense. A long glass table ran down the middle, 12 chairs filled, one left open at the head. Harrison stood near the window, arms crossed, posture relaxed, like this was just another Tuesday. As soon as I stepped in, he nodded. Gentlemen, this is Mr. Sutton. Let's begin. I didn't sit. I stayed standing, hands flat on the table, and looked each board member in the eye one by one. These were the same types of men who'd once told me I was too young, too small, too risky. Now they leaned in, pens ready. The restructure plan is simple, I said. We're doing a full performance-based overhaul. Every department will be audited, redundancies removed, leadership roles reevaluated. A few shifted in their seats. We're absorbing client portfolios across both companies. That means we'll retain what works, cut what doesn't, and combine top talent. Titles won't protect anyone. Output will. Someone on the left cleared his throat. What about the current executive team? I didn't blink. All VPs will be vetted, every one of them. If they can't justify their seat, they'll be replaced. That includes legacy hires. Behind the glass wall, just outside the boardroom, I saw them. Kyle, Mom, and Dad, standing like they were waiting for a verdict. Kyle looked pale. Mom clutched her purse like it might float away. Dad had his arms crossed, pretending not to be nervous. I looked back at the table. This company can't run on handshakes and family ties anymore. We move forward on merit, not inheritance. That one hit. I didn't say his name, but every man at that table knew exactly who I was talking about. Some exchanged looks, others nodded. Harrison sat down, finally speaking up. We've reviewed Sutton Strategy's integration model. It's lean, aggressive, efficient. This board needs to decide if it's ready for real change, or if we keep bleeding money protecting legacies. Silence. Then the oldest guy at the table, a former CFO, leaned forward. I like what I'm hearing. About time someone cut the fat. Another nodded. Agreed. We've played it too safe for too long. I didn't smile. I didn't move. I waited. Then one by one, they extended their hands across the table. I shook each one. Harrison stood again. Congratulations, Mr. Sutton. As of this vote, Sutton Strategies officially controls the merger direction, effective immediately. I nodded once. Thank you. Through the glass, I saw Kyle sink slightly against the wall. His eyes locked on mine, confused, furious, defeated all at once. He finally understood. He wasn't next in line anymore. He was just another employee waiting to see if he still had a job. I walked out without a word to them. Not yet. That part was still coming. The second those boardroom doors shut behind me, I knew they were still there. Kyle was slouched on the leather bench across from the elevators, elbows on his knees like he'd just been benched. Mom sat stiff, knees crossed, hands folded, eyes locked on the floor. Dad stood with his back to the window, pretending to look out at the skyline, probably wishing he was anywhere else. None of them spoke when I walked out. I didn't stop walking until I was standing directly in front of them. Kyle looked up first. Is there anything I can do? He asked, voice low. Anything to fix this? I stared at him. You've got two options, start fresh or walk out. He blinked. That's it? That's it. No handout, no lifeline, just reality. Dad turned around slowly. What if we started over, wiped the slate clean? I tilted my head. You mean after decades of being ignored? After you told me I'd never be more than a tech guy running errands? He winced. We didn't mean it like that. You meant it exactly like that. Mom finally stood. We were wrong. Her voice cracked just a little. You've proven that now. I kept my voice even. This isn't about proving anything. It's about remembering. She looked confused. Remembering what? Every time you called Kyle the successful one. Every birthday where you bragged about his career like I wasn't in the room. Every dinner I sat through where you asked him questions and barely looked at me. I remember all of it. Her mouth opened, but I didn't give her time to speak. This isn't punishment. It's structure. It's what should have been there from the start. Kyle stood. So, what? We just pretend none of us are related now? No, I said. You remember we're related, but you also understand that from here on out, I'm the one leading. I don't owe any of you anything. You want to be part of what comes next? Then you come in ready to pull your weight. That's the only way. Dad ran a hand down his face. You really think we can just flip the script like that? I stared at him. No, I think I flipped it. You're deciding if you want to turn the page or stay stuck. No one answered. The elevator dinged. I turned to walk toward it, and just before I stepped inside, Kyle spoke again. I'm not going to waste the shot. I get it now. I didn't nod. I didn't look back. I just let the doors close. They weren't used to seeing me lead, but they were going to have to get used to it. That night, I sat alone in my office, 30 floors above the city, lights off, skyline glowing through the glass behind me. Everything was quiet, the kind of quiet that only comes after a storm clears out. In my hand was the only thing I ever kept from the old days, my grandfather's watch. Heavy, worn, silver scraped along the edges. He gave it to me when I turned 18, said I'd do something great someday. He was the only one who ever said that out loud. I ran my thumb over the face, ticking steady like it always had. They all thought I was invisible. For years I let them, played the part, ate the disrespect, let Kyle soak up the spotlight while they fed me scraps and called it love. But I remembered everything, every joke, every time they introduced me like I was the family screw-up. And now I was the man holding the pen that rewrote all of it. My phone buzzed once, screen lighting up on the desk. A message from Kyle. Thanks for the second chance. I won't waste it. I stared at it. Didn't move, didn't respond. I just let it sit there. A second later, I locked the screen and slid the phone away. The merger paperwork was open in front of me. Final draft, every detail approved, every signature lined up but mine. Tomorrow it would go live. Sutton Strategies would take control. The performance-based restructure would start. And every name, every role, every decision from here on out would go through me. No handouts, no shortcuts, no apologies. I picked up the pen, clicked it once, and signed. That was it. The company that once overlooked me now belonged to me. But more than that, the family that spent their lives looking past me, now they had no choice but to look up. And the best part? I never needed revenge, just results.